At the moment, as you and I speak, I cannot really tell what happened exactly after Hilaree Nelson and Jim Morrison summited Manaslu. They wanted to ski down the mountain. That was a world first, and they were not the only ones on skis on the mountain.
It brings me no pleasure to bring this story today. Devastating news from Nepal on the mountain Manaslu, where Hilaree Nelson, the professional skier, the North Face professional skier, her body has been found. I have many, many friends who know her very well. This is absolutely tragic. And I'm going to bring you a brief conversation with Angela Benavides from Explorers Web, who has constantly been looking into this story and also looking into the story of the weather situation on Manaslu and the hundreds and hundreds of people who are still waiting to get to the summit. The story of Hilaree Nelson and Jim Morrison is known by many. They were endeavoring to ski from the summit of the actual summit of Manaslu, which has been redetermined, and it is up on a very steep and sharp angled ridge. After 2 days she was found, and now her body is in Kathmandu. For adventurers, for explorers, for human beings everywhere, this is a very, very sad story. Hilaree was the epitome of a woman of strength and one who endeavored to do things and push the boundaries above and beyond. And obviously we all know that doing things like this is not without risk, and the flip side of the risk is that many people lose their lives. To me, the great loss in this, beyond friends losing a friend, is that there are 2 children who love her deeply, who will not grow up with their mom. Here's my conversation with Angela Benavides from her home in Madrid, who has been keeping up to date on this story about Hilaree Nelson and Jim Morrison. So the news from Manaslu is devastating. It's not good. What have you learned, and what do you know factually that you can share with me about the latest from there?
Yeah, last Monday was a tragic day on Manaslu. There were some people, not very much, a handful of people who went for the summit. Conditions were far from good. There was a lot of snow on the mountain, and so some sections were unstable. But there was quite a lot of people in higher camps. The reason is that the forecast was good. There was an improvement expected for later in the week, and that meant that hundreds of climbers were going up, right? So these hundreds of climbers have basically 2 options. One was facing the crowds and possibly traffic jams in the upper slopes, or the plan B was trying to get ahead of the rest, even if the weather was not good, even if conditions were somehow risky, and try to avoid the crowds, which were risky as well. In fact, that was the main reason used the previous week by Christine Harila and some other climbers who reached the summit in very deep snow, very tough conditions. And they say, yeah, conditions are bad, but the crowds ahead are going to be worse. So that was the reason, right? So you have a tricky situation, no ideal option. Decision-making was difficult. At the moment, as you and I speak, I cannot really tell what happened exactly after Hilaree Nelson and Jim Morrison summited Manaslu. They wanted to ski down the mountain. That was a world first, and they were not the only ones on skis on the mountain. I don't know until what point competition was a factor or not. They just saw a chance, went up. According to reports, they reached the summit, and Hilaree fell on the way back while she was on skis. And, she went missing. Reports were very contradictory because there was no primary source. Of course, her partner was busy enough trying to arrange a rescue. There was a helicopter search yesterday. Apparently, at the end of the day, they found some items of clothes, and we were hoping for the best, but chances were scarce of a good result. And sadly, this morning, the body was found. Her remains were found down the southeast face of the mountain, which is not where the normal route goes. So she fell down a different side of the mountain. And well, what can I say? It's devastating. She was a very well-considered athlete, and she was an icon, as inspiring for so many people. And well, it was a mountain accident. It's part of the game, but it's never. You never get used to something like that.
Yeah, that's it. I have had many conversations about this in the last couple of days since she fell and went missing. I mean, these people, especially people like Hilaree, have inspired countless people not to go do insane, extreme things, but inspired countless people, women too, to be better than they are, to look for new things and reach outside of their comfort zone. And so these aren't reckless, hapless people. These are people who are just happen to be on the extremes of the boundaries of human ability. And when one is lost, it's tragic, it's sad, and the whole world takes time to reflect on it. And I almost wonder, Angela, if you've heard anything from Manaslu that indicates that it's going to change this season in terms of how people are approaching Manaslu. Are people that's it, we're going home, or does the mad rush continue?
Depending on who you speak. Right now, Manaslu, they seemingly are talking about different mountains. I see different realities depending on who you speak. The conditions on the mountain, objectively, they are risky right now, and they are not going to improve in the next few days. That's it, right? It's very high wind today. There's going to be wind slough forming. Those are very dangerous, very avalanche prone. And then through the weekend, it's going to snow again. So right now, several teams are canceling their expeditions. Most of them are veterans. I mean, agencies and expedition leaders who have been in the mountain for decades, with a very high skills, not only climbing skills, but also assessing conditions, knowing the snow conditions, the mountain conditions, and safety is first. So many of them are canceling, some others are not. Depending on who you ask, they will say that this number of climbers is absolutely not acceptable. Some others will say, why not? There's plenty of room for everyone, right? So it's a personal choice. Nothing is going to change as far as I know. I am not even sure not just Hilaree Nelson's accident, the avalanche, it was just sheer luck that so many people were caught and so many people was rescued, right? Apparently it was not a very big avalanche, and the details are still scarce, but well, you can say, but it should bring some reflection about what we are doing, the risk we are taking, and what happened when you have so many people over ropes. The fact was that the mountain conditions were not good, and one person died, right? It was, it was not only Hilaree, it was Anup Rai. He was a father of a family father too, and he was working. He was not even climbing for hobby. He was making a living also of helping people on the mountain. So yeah, I think it should be the base for reflection about how we assess risks, how many risks we take. And there's something you said that it's interesting. I don't know if you heard any critical comments about Hilaree Nelson was taking too much risks. I've been following her career, and she and Jim were probably among the most experienced, the most skilled climbers on the mountain. Then, of course, there are risks. I cannot judge their decisions. I haven't spoken to Jim. There's a lot to say, and there's very little we know about what happened that day. It's definitely too soon, and we know too little to make an opinion, to have an opinion about that. But what I can tell is that there is a worryingly growing number of people absolutely inexperienced on the high mountains who are strong enough to go up, but they have no way to assess what is going on around them, right? They are absolutely dependent on their leaders, and that requires a very skilled, a very responsible leader. So, well, it's getting a dangerous game, right? Because there are more and more people who are not self-sufficient on those mountains.
Yeah, so you brought up a very, very important thing in there, and you mentioned the other person who was killed in the avalanche, a name that probably nobody knows, or many people will forget. This is a man who was there working to support commercial expeditions, and you said he had children and he was supporting his family. And so as explorers and adventurers, sure, we take risks, but I have and been paid to go do these things. So it's a risk. It's kind of, we know it's happening. And here's a person who probably isn't making a lot of money. And I don't know if there was much choice involved or knowledge of the dangers of the mountain. So here's this gentleman who's no longer there to raise his children. And that to me is really the ultimate tragedy of it. I just want to know that here we are doing this story, and a lot of people are interested in learning about Hilaree Nelson, which is beautiful. But the truth is that we go to these mountains, and now these commercial expeditions are pushing these paying customers up, and in the firing line are these people, men and women, who really don't almost even have a say. We're going to carry a load up and then we're coming down, boom, avalanche. Suddenly there's a man who lost his life just trying to make not a lot of money to raise a family. And that to me is where the real pause needs to come in. That's where the real thinking needs to happen.
I mean, it's a risky business. It always been. And one of my concerns as I follow expeditions, and I follow, is that I feel many climbers and part of the audiences have this perception that the mountains are not difficult anymore, that there is no such a thing as a difficult mountain. It happens on K2, 145 people on the summit and nothing happened. It was great. So who said it was difficult? Because they just needed to clip on the ropes, put one foot in front of the other and keep going, right? But there is a danger. And this is what we have seen on Manaslu. And it was, one person sadly died, but I think it was between 12 and 14 people causing the avalanche who were helped out, who were rescued. At least 4 of them are seriously injured in hospital, but it could have been much worse.
Yeah.
It could have been one of the biggest disasters in mountaineering history. I mean, the danger is there. And it's not a question of being strong, of being driven, of being motivated. It's a question of you and the mountain, and there are some factors that no one can control. No matter how many ropes, no matter how many supporting Sherpas, no matter how many camps and how much oxygen. Some things cannot be controlled. We are very small and the mountains are very big, obvious.
The time now is to really think that there are people on this planet who endeavor to exceed the limits, to go beyond the limits, and they inspire us to do better and to be greater and to reach beyond our own comfort zone. And people like Hilaree Nelson, while I could not even imagine doing anything of what she and Jim Morrison have done. She inspires countless women and human beings around the world to go outside of their comfort zone and face their fears. And we will miss her deeply, and I send my heartfelt condolences to her family and to all her North Face family as well.